Ready? Hello guys and welcome to the first mukbang on our channel.
We're back again with another video and we're doing a mukbang this time. We're going for the obvious McDonald's. We're going to run through our order quickly before we get into the travel stuff. So what have we got, my darling?
We have got a chicken share box, courtesy of McDonald's. We have got another chicken McNuggets share box. So we've got a lot of nuggets.
This is 12 nuggets, 6 selects. We have 20 nuggets here.
2 plain triple cheeseburgers for me.
I have a chili crispy wrap and a burger, which I'm not even sure what it is.
I think it's a bacon mayo chicken.
Bacon mayo chicken. And then we got some fries.
Some fries to
and some McFlurries.
Which are in the fridge, so we hope they don't melt too much.
Yep. And our topic today is Costa Rica. This is a place that we went to 18 months ago now, really.
It was the end of 2022, so December 26th to December 26th to what, the
January 11th, 12th?
January 11th, 12th, something like that.
Went there for Amy's 21st. I planned it all, obviously, because it was their 21st. It was almost like a surprise. And it was probably one of our best trips we've done. Well, definitely our best trip we've ever done. It was one to remember for sure.
It definitely was. We met a lot of people that we have somewhat stayed in contact with, which is very nice.
Yeah, and we did a lot out there. We were only out there for, you may say, like 16 days, but a few days of travel, so about 2 weeks really. And I think considering how long we were there and how far it was, I think we got quite a lot done really.
We did have a really cool experience with staying in an animal sanctuary. So we volunteered for what should have been 1 week and we extended it again for another week. So we were there pretty much the full duration of our trip. We stayed at a sanctuary called Rescate.
So the original plan was to stay at Rescate for 1 week and then go off and do travelling. We were planning to do about 7 days, move around the west side of Costa Rica into like Guanacaste, do Monteverde, do the cloud forest there, do La Fortuna, make our way down the south near Jaco, down Manuel Antonio and then back up to San Jose, where we obviously get a flight out of, but we loved it so much and we met so many amazing people. We decided to stay an extra week and then on our weekends we would do our little day or 2-day trips.
We were doing overnight, wouldn't we, in each place?
Yeah, so we had to pick and choose there, but that was basically what the plan was, and obviously it turned into a 2-week stay there. So really, if not many people do know, Amy mentioned it, we did do, we stayed at a sanctuary, so Rescate. So what they do is they work with Costa Rica wildlife or any wildlife that is actually in Costa Rica. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, they might not be native, wasn't it? So something that we did learn was that some of the animals there were brought in through animal trade, through people wanting pets that shouldn't be pets. So a lot of the animals couldn't necessarily leave Costa Rica, but they weren't native to Costa Rica and they weren't well enough to even be in the wild, which is very sad.
Yeah, so we learned a lot about wildlife out there and all the efforts they do towards supporting and rehabilitating all the wildlife in Costa Rica. And we got to some quite cool things. We're going to go through the day-by-day activities that we were doing there, what each day looks like, what time we'd start, finish, etc., what we do in our downtime. But I think we'll start off with our flight over and then obviously integrating into Rescate.
It was great. Our flight there was great. I
can't remember it.
I've never flown long haul and it was our direct long haul British Airways flight.
I can't remember it.
It was great. I remember we walked onto the flight and I was like, the most I've ever flown is what, like 4 hours?
Probably, yeah.
And this was about what, 9-10 hours of a flight?
Uh-huh.
And I remember we had the screens, which is something I've never had. We got a blanket, which I was like, sweet, like happy days.
Yeah.
I remember we played games on the flight, so we were playing the on-screen games and then we were syncing our movies. I remember that, but I don't actually remember us watching anything of significance. I think we weren't, we were a bit too excited with everything going around us to actually just sit and enjoy something. But no, the flight was alright, weren't it? Because we landed, I think we landed late evening, because I remember them picking us up from the airport and it was pitch black.
We landed like, it wasn't late, but I think we landed about like 7 or 8. So we landed as the sun come down because We ended up getting a taxi service or transport to Rescate. We got dropped off. It took about 40 minutes.
Rescate organised our transport.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
we got it all sorted, and when we got there, we got settled in. We met obviously the people that were working there and working with the animals. We got settled in as much as you can in the evening. They were going straight to moving night, weren't they?
I was going to say quickly before that one, when we transferred between the airport and Rescate, it wasn't actually too bad of a...
Good nuggies.
It wasn't actually too bad of a transfer. So the airport itself is San Jose, which is the capital of Costa Rica. We flew into the capital.
Yeah.
Rescate is in a place called Alajeula, so it's like...
Ooh,
so
bit of Spanish to it.
15, 20 minutes outside of it, maybe? It wasn't too far, was it?
No.
So the actual transfer itself, we were happy to arrive at Rescate, but it wasn't like we were having a... It's not like we were then flying, but then we were having long transfers and travel outside of that just to get to where we needed to go.
Yeah, we booked it. We made sure that we went to a sanctuary that was pretty local to where we were flying to. It was San Jose. We didn't want to have to trek halfway across the country to get to where we're staying. So we arrived there. We got given the ins and outs. I think we got given the schedule for the week. You normally arrive there on an off day, so you get to walk around the park, get used to it. And then give it a day or so, then you'll get integrated into the patterns, the working patterns, and everything else. Like when we arrived, we had I believe we arrived at 9 o'clock at night at the Rescate because they kept food for us. What you do is when you stay with Rescate, you also get your food and accommodation included. Food being lunch and dinner. You don't get breakfast, but there are breakfast amenities, so like eggs and fruit and everything.
You pretty much did get breakfast, it just wasn't made for you, that was the only thing.
Yeah, you can make pancakes, you can go get some bananas, plantain, oranges, apples, whatever else they had. And yeah, we arrived, I remember we had our first dinner and we weren't sure what we were expecting. They were like, we got your dinner. It was in like a plastic.
It was vegetarian burgers.
It was in a plastic little container, a bit like a Tupperware you take to work.
Kind of like a lunch dinner, like what you'd expect there.
Yeah, and it was veggie burgers because they were like, we're not sure if you're veggie or we didn't want to get you a meat one and you're veggie. And me, being the person I am, I eat absolutely everything. So I was like, yes, get me that food. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm a little bit jet lagged as well.
I remember I was not.
I slammed it. I was like, yeah, and Aimee was like, oh, what is it? But they invited us to go see, they have a movie theatre there, which is really cool. Having that on the actual sanctuary as well. In the sanctuary, you've got to walk through it, and you've got a little cubby hole where they have a little open theatre. They do talks on the animals and stuff. We had one later on in our trip. They wanted to see the first Avatar, which we were like, yeah, why not? Forgetting it's a 3-hour film or whatever it is, 2 hour 50, 40, 30. We were knackered, but we
took our little trays in with us.
Yeah, we took our food, we took our dinner as almost like our popcorn, so to speak, and we just sit there, eat our chips.
Like, it was the biggest culture shock going from home to here because they were like, oh, by the way, the park is extremely dark at night, there's not really any lights, so watch out for snakes and spiders and, you know. And you were like, it was pitch black. It wasn't a straight route to the cinema. It was quite a few different pathways you had to go across.
All you had was your the lighting in your phone.
Yeah, you could hear bugs and whatever.
So many animals across the park.
And you were like, before you go, and like in the actual accommodation, it was saying like the risks with snakes, how to deal with a snake if you get bit.
Yeah. Like
animal risks, whatever. And then straight away we left and we were like, we're going to the cinema. And we're straight into what if there's snakes, what if there's like all these animals that we were really scared of dealing with.
It was weird because I felt like we were thrown in the deep end, obviously it being at night. I think if you arrive in the morning, you almost get you get to wander around the park, you get a little feel for it, you get to see the animals. It's almost like we got there and we didn't know where the animals were or anything, did we?
I remember we landed there, like when we first went into the park, we kept hearing a noise and it proper like shook us up. Next day we found out the peacocks are very loud and they like to make a lot of noise, but being there in the night time you didn't see the peacocks, so you didn't know what the noise was coming from.
In your head it's a T-Rex, but in reality it's a little peacock trying to under its daily mating call. But we went and watched our
Avatar?
We went and watched our Avatar. I think pretty much halfway we both started nodding off. We were trying to keep our eyes open. I've just eaten, so I've got a full belly, uncomfortable. And it's a struggle. Pretty sure you fell asleep. Aimee curled into me. I'm pretty sure
I did. I remember like I kept feeling like bugs on my legs, and I think there was like little critters on the floor. So
critters.
Yeah, I just remember being like, oh my god, like it was very much like you are thrown in the deep end. The next, it was that the day we walked back to, so the accommodation was like within the sanctuary but outside of the actual sanctuary. So like it was within the grounds but it was off the back of the parking bit. So
basically, as you got the parking lot, you would go right towards the entrance of the park. And there's a little cubby hole to the left with a little like off building. So
I remember one day when we were walking back to the sanctuary, I'm pretty sure it was the first night we were there, one of the girls we met saw the sloth. Well, saw one of the sloths in our area. That was in the evening. I remember them saying that. So apparently there was a sloth that was... The animals aren't necessarily caged and the sloths climb. They kind of do whatever. At Rescate, they had a regular visitor of a sloth who they helped, I think, and they had a baby. And then it kept coming back and revisiting. And someone had saw the sloth outside of the accommodation, which wasn't necessarily a surprise to the other staff members because it's quite a regular occurrence, but...
Yeah, and every time we used to walk to and fro, well, anywhere around the park really, we'd always look out for sloths or wild bears or iguanas up in the tallest tree because that's where they always wanted to be.
And you'd always hear a loud thump. The iguana was on the floor, just scuttling off. So fun fact, iguanas climb trees and they also happily fall out of trees. And they don't care.
Yeah, they don't climb down them. But that was our first day. That was our first day in Rescate. And it was a pretty chilled one. Went over New Year's, so we had a little bit longer over the day off period. I think we had 3 days off instead of the full weekend, which would normally be 2. But we got straight into it, I believe, in the next day or the following day.
Do you remember the fireworks across that? We hadn't been there long and we'd met, like, we'd got very quickly comfortable to the group around us volunteering at the same time. We all went into the sanctuary to like the cafe bit because it had a decent view.
Yeah.
Obviously it was pitch black. It all counted down to midnight, obviously, for New Year. You saw all the fireworks going off over the city and sorry, we were all singing songs and it was just like such a beautiful moment.
It was an amazing moment, we'll get on to a little bit more. So the work schedule and everything else, like, how did you find it?
It was very different for me compared to you. So I was signing up for volunteering. I assigned more social media tasks and photography because I do photography, I do a bit of social media, so that was more so what I was inclined to be helping with. Whereas Jack just wanted to be there as an animal, like support, an animal volunteer. So we were slightly assigned different tasks. I did find like I get quite tired easily with my health condition, so it was a bit better for me to have slightly less hectic schedule, but it was great. I will say quickly, we had like weekly meetings to kind of say what we liked, what we didn't like and what we'd want to do the next week ahead.
Which is a really, really good addition.
I do think for planning it was a lot more, we got to do a bit of everything.
And what you wanted to do and what you enjoyed,
your passion almost. Yeah, if it really was too much for you to do, you could say like, look, this isn't for me. Like,
I'd rather not do this, I'd rather do this.
Like I am not a fan of birds and there's nothing against them, but I freak out when birds are flapping. And there was a macaw section of the sanctuary and you could go clean out the birds, help feed them with the birds and whatever. I went once and I stayed as far away from the birds as I could because I did not enjoy it. And you quite liked that, didn't you?
It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was not great. So I said, hectic. No more birds for me. And then you carried on with the birds.
The schedule was quite well thought out. You had daily routines that you would need to do. So morning feed, which you'd normally start at like 6:30, 7. Bearing in mind, because obviously we're going back in time, we're coming from the UK, our timeline was so out of sync that Aimee was waking up at 3 AM in the morning every morning, which was a blessing really. We'll get onto it, but you kept waking me up at like 4, and to be honest I wasn't against it, and it was lovely because we used to do a morning walk before we went to work and did all our tasks. We would be able to walk and get to know the animals. Like, you got to think, when we arrived we didn't get to see the animals and the next day was work, and we managed to do an hour walk. We took our big camera, we took photos of all the animals. A lot of them were still sleeping. We got out at 6 AM. It was like perfect because we almost got an hour to ourselves to to walk about, to explore.
I will add a huge highlight to our days in this walk was an animal called Peaky. And this is like, this year he died, so we were on a trip, and on the way back we was like on social media on the train, and we saw that Peaky had passed away, and a few tears were shed.
For Aimee.
For me, Peaky I think was like a great highlight of our trip. I actually got a tattoo of Peaky. As like a memorabilia like type thing, souvenir from our trip. But every morning we walked into like, not his enclosure necessarily, but he was in a bit of the sanctuary that was sunken down. So the walkway to him was above his like.
We had like a walking bridge that you could almost like oversee his area, which kind of gave him a little bit of space in the back, because he can go off and hide in his pen, but he can also come up and greet and everything else.
But like every morning for our walks, he'd come up and he'd run up to see who was coming, and like he was inquisitive, which was like, it was a cute part of the trip. I really enjoyed seeing Peaky every day, bless him. Yeah,
but we do our morning walk, and it was pretty fun really, just exploring, taking photos.
Some of it did become like a challenge, and I don't know if like, do you remember the deer? So weirdly, a national animal of Costa Rica is the deer, a white-tailed deer, is it?
Yeah.
It's not a sloth like you'd imagine. And they had this beautiful white-tailed deer in the sanctuary. However, you could never see it. It was always hiding in grass and whatever. So every time we went on our walk, we tried to find the deer. And we had seen it a few times by the end of the trip, didn't we?
Yeah, by the end of the trip we found it. We actually ended up feeding it as one of our one of our tasks. Yeah, you can have the last select. Anyway, back off the tangent that Aimee keeps running on. After we finished our morning walk and enjoyed ourselves, came back, had a drink, chilled out, and then our day would normally start probably around 7:30. Between 7 and 8.
Depending on what activities you were given.
Again, the activities were almost like broken into about 5 different categories, so I'll try and go through them because they're quite hard to remember them all. But you had the feeding, which would be either the morning feed, the afternoon feed, or bird feed.
I was specific, or the whole.
Yeah. So you do the whole of the park. So that would include like jaguars where you feed them meat. You could do like, the other ones would be almost like animal watching. So you would monitor their behaviours, their movements, the animal observation. So that was one of my favourites. Aimee less so. And then you had enrichment. That's the word I was thinking of. Animal enrichment. So this is coming up with like natural toys or games or like food incentives. So an example would be to have a wooden block, you drill a hole in it, you stuff hay in it, and then you maybe put some food in it, some fruit. You'd give it to a monkey, the monkey's got to put his hand in it, figure out how it works, get the fruit out and eat it. So it almost uses their cognitive brain.
But we had to research these and make them.
It's research, and you can only use natural materials. So it really challenges you on how to use your brain and how things can work. We were trying to make bird perches, which was really difficult because you're using basic wooden blocks and trying to cut them and link them together, and do it with a bit of string, which is the most natural thing you can use out there.
But it was even down to like, everything had a specific function. Like you couldn't just say, oh, I'm making a bird perch.
Who's it for?
Why? What's it going to help with to do with their animal instincts? Like,
and who's it for? Because you make it for individuals. Like you would either make it for. We made a big log. We got a big tree trunk log, and we cut some divots out of it, and we stuffed some rubbed onion on it. We threw it in the peccary pen, which are like small warthogs or like pigs with tusks. And they really enjoyed it. They'd rub up against it, they'd try and eat the onions, they love the scent. They're obviously quite mucky animals, so it kind of fits in with their regime. But it's really it's more so getting them engaged with whatever you're doing. And also, not only are you making it, you're also jotting down how well they interact with it. If they don't interact with it well, then they're not going to try it again, or not going to try it for a while. If they interact really well, then it might be a cycled enrichment idea that they use every 2-3 weeks. We've got the enrichment, we have the observation, we have the feeding, we have
there was training, clicker training.
The training. So, and is there anything else that we're missing? Feeding, training, observation,
there was
enrichment.
The clinic, where we could go in and help with the clinic. There was that in cleaning, you could help with the cleaning of the animals, but most
or collecting of leaves.
That was another one.
In collection, we'll kind of put them together. So there's
Yeah.
almost 5 different categories. Clinic can go in that as well.
Yeah, the clinic was you mostly cleaned and cleared, so it wasn't necessarily, we didn't get involved in the clinic, but we got to go in the clinic.
Yeah, so normally, out your whole week, you'd normally give them pretty much one of everything. The clinic was the main thing everyone wanted to do because get a bit more up close and personal.
Prized, yeah.
But you're also making sure that it's at the interest of the animals. These animals are ones that have been brought in due to electrocution, treated badly, abuse. They're a danger to society because they're kept as a pet, and obviously they've outgrown their pet status.
But they're also hoping that some of these animals can be re-released.
It's important to make sure that you keep your distance from these. One of the ones I did in the clinic, just as a quick little overview, was those baby monkeys. And these monkeys are like, we're talking tiny, tiny monkeys. They could sit in your hand, and it's important not to provide eye contact because they want it. They want eye contact. They want to feel some sort of interaction, and that will cause them to lose their natural animal instincts. So when they get released in the wild, they won't have the instincts to survive and thrive, build their colonies and everything else. Made sure to do it in the right way. What are you eyeing up? On a drink. We're going to have a little break. Amy's going to talk to you a little bit more about the day-to-day. I'm going to grab a drink. Give me 2 seconds. We were there for a week initially, so we got to meet all the people we were there with, which was quite nice, and pushed us outside our comfort zone, forced us to meet other people. I think it kind of helped us really actually enjoy it more.
It also meant at the end of our days when I'd been volunteering, you'd stop and you'd talk to each other and you'd go, oh, I've done this today, oh, I've done this,
the best part
that. But even that, every day you had set lunch hours that they tried to keep any of the activities away from. So we'd both finish our volunteering and there might have been a hour gap, but we'd go to lunch together and be like, oh, this is what I did, this is what I did. We normally meet people we'd been volunteering with.
What did you do this morning? Oh, I went and did this with these, and oh, that's really cool. What did you do? Oh, I did this. It was really cool to actually, I feel like in today's society it's very easy to get caught up on your phones and not enjoy your own company or other people's company. So
I feel like the only need for the phones really was we were updating our social media, but we weren't serious on it. And because of the time difference with it being behind, it was always a bit more difficult to contact family. So the only time we majorly spoke to family, I think, was in the morning when we were waking up early. Lunch was the absolute push, but by then, sometimes we were so tired, we were chilling and we've got X amount of time before we're going on to the next activity. It was just
yeah, and our days were quite, they weren't strenuous in terms of we were doing a lot. We were doing quite a lot, but we weren't crazy running around. I think we were just always trying to do something. So in the evenings we were trying to enjoy the evenings. The mornings we were trying to get the most out of the mornings before we started. So yeah, it was quite good. But what would you say be your favourite activity to do while you were volunteering there? Out of the main ones that we've mentioned.
Definitely not the birds.
Not the birds. Okay, the birds are gone.
Realistically, the clinic was, I understand why it was the prized activity. I remember doing that, and I don't know if we were lucky for this. We got to help clean out the sloth clinic enclosure, which Orly, the main reason Natural Costa Rica got booked.
Her
it's my favourite animal. And there is a photo of me that I might be able to put up on screen where we are in this, cleaning the sloths out. Jack's clocked there's a camera. I've not, and I'm just staring up at this sloth, and I look like the biggest child with a massive sweet in front of you or whatever.
It's almost like she's seen our icon, she's seen Lady Gaga.
I was full starstruck.
Oh my god, wow.
I can't speak. Starstruck. I was starstruck with this sloth.
And they're beautiful. And so you said clinic was top and birds were bottom.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the feeding round. That's something that I wish I did again. I really enjoyed that. You got to it was probably a bit grim because you were big chunks of just raw meat given to these animals, which not necessarily nicest. However, you did get quite close to some animals that you wouldn't necessarily be near.
I assume the one you're hinting almost towards is the jaguar.
Oh, it's even the ocelots and
the ocelots as well.
Quite a few of them, but they were just it was really cool, and you got to learn their stories as well, which was quite nice.
The best thing about going there and working with the animals, you've got to learn each of their stories. which we want to make sure we preach, because each have their own individual story of why they're there, or why they can't be released, or what's happened to them, and they're all sad, but they all give you a sense of understanding of why they're being looked after and why these people do what they do, because they aren't treated they aren't treated that well, whatever case it is. And
I will say one thing that was kind of prominent was that sometimes love, like we would think, oh, you're loving this animal, is actually really detrimental to the animal. So like one of the things that we did hear about was how like some of these exotic pets were used as pets, like they were loved like a household pet, and the love that owners are giving them, these animals shouldn't be domesticated, and you're domesticating them, and all round it's creating a not so nice situation, which you were doing so-called out of love. Like they did mention like macaws and some of the birds there being domesticated when they shouldn't be, which I think in the UK even like it's very common to hear about people owning wild birds like parrots, macaws, whatever. And we were learning about it, and it was like realistically these shouldn't even be domesticated, and it's just
100%.
common. What was your favourite activity? Because I feel like I know what yours would be, but
it's weird because like I wouldn't say there wasn't really an activity I wouldn't do again. They were all fun. They all had their different aspects. There was ones that were a little bit more, not boring, but a little bit more, almost boring, or not much to it.
a bit tedious.
A bit like the collecting leaves you would do with basically sloths. They're very fussy creatures, especially the ones that are in the clinic. Obviously, in the clinic, they're looking to get better, right? They've just had their surgeries, or they've just been helped, and they're being analysed to see if there's any problems with them. They need to keep strong, and we would be tasked to go out into the forest, into the back. Basically, Rescate is attached to a forest, so we go into the forest and we take these massive clippers, which must be standing, a massive rod which has a clip on the end, a simple device. You just pull the string and it will cut like a scissor. And it was probably about 4 meters, maybe 5 meters tall. The big stick. It was big. Tall. And you'd go up and you just look for leaves that they liked, but they liked specific ones. They liked the red ones.
Specific colours, yeah.
It was like a maroon colour that would almost shine in the light. They're quite hard to come by, so you'd walk around. You spend half an hour, and you'd probably get like a handful like that of leaves.
I remember we went to the leaves and we were walking, and it was not my favourite. I will say that. I remember that.
Aimee's worse, I think.
Jack turned, or we were walking and talking, and he was like this far away from a massive spider, and the spider's web, which was awful. It was a good, like, big spider. And
the
we
spiders
like,
out there are huge. But yeah, that to me it was fun because it was a good experience, but it wasn't really that riveting. I would say there was other ones like probably my favourite is either observation or enrichment. You were going to say observation. Observation with the coyotes. That was yours. See, I really like the coyotes. There was one coyote called Yep who was almost like taught like a dog. We do have a German Shepherd who's actually in the background behind me now. You can't see her, but very much like her, but obviously wild coyote, and it was brought up like a dog, kept like a dog, and obviously the owner found out it wasn't a dog, it was a coyote, and couldn't keep it, got rid of it. And it was very human imprinted, and it would always cry, and
it wanted attention.
Always wanted attention from humans. As a wild dog, it would act with a wild dog, it would eat raw food, it would hunt, it would do all these things. Because of its imprinting, it lost that part of its wild nature. Instinct, yeah, that instinct that wild animals have. So that's why it's important. But I'd say that was really good. I really enjoyed that. And enrichment, again, it's being creative, isn't it? It's coming up with cool little ways to help the animals, creating little things with your hands. We made, for one of the monkeys, we made out of rope and out of logs that we cut up, we made a ladder. Which was 2 meters, 2 meter ladder. We hung it up for the spider monkeys, and the spider monkeys would swing across it like that, which is really cool because it shows that they were using it and they would get a lot from it. So
but yeah, no, Rescate was definitely something that we look back and it was like, well, like it doesn't feel like it happened somewhat. Like it was 18 months ago and it feels so far away, but also like the memories are still like very close.
It's crazy because it's so far away. But also, like, you remember it, and it's just almost like it's like a
fever dream.
Yeah, it's like one of the dreams that you loved to like.
You were enjoying the dream that you don't want to wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
we were very lucky with who we met and what we did. I think the people we met helped make the experience like we did.
It always is the case. The people you meet always make the experience, and we really enjoyed it. And we would always recommend for people to do anything, any sort of conservation towards animals or people,
or just general volunteering abroad. I think it was a very unique experience.
It's eye-opening, and that's the reason why I ended up booking it for Amy's birthday, because I thought it would be thought-provoking. I love animals, so I thought from a selfish perspective, I wanted to work with animals and try it out, and it was a good place to do it.
It was great, yeah.
But yeah, we've got so many more experiences to talk about with Rescate. We're probably just going to go through it another time.
Yeah.
Going to almost put a pin in it, and I think it's good to leave it off as our favourite points.
I don't know if we even got that, so we'll start again. Our cameras died and we were coming towards the end of the video anyway, so let's finish off here. Yeah, Costa Rica is somewhere we will really hold close to us. We'll probably talk more about meeting people side of the volunteering and probably a bit more in depth, but for now, that's kind of a brief reminiscence of Costa Rica.
Yeah, and our day trips we'll talk about in another one as well. Yes. We'll go through where we went, what we did, how we found it, and all that good stuff. But I think we'll leave it there as our camera has died, and to be honest, we rambled for absolutely ages, so I think we're going to leave it there. We've eaten all the food, I say all of it. We'll go through what we've eaten quickly. We have probably 15 nuggets left, a few chips. I have my wrap.
McFlurries
and we're just about to get our McFlurries, which I'm actually going to head off and get now. But
yeah, we will be uploading roughly weekly now, if not more, because we want to get on top of this.
We're going to try and do it 2 times a week. That's the plan.
Minimum once a week, I think. Regardless.
Minimum once a week. We're going to aim for 2.
Yeah.
If you've got any ideas of what we can upload, we're going to do some...
down here what you'd want to see.
Exactly. We're going to do some podcast type. We're going to do some day trip type. Do check out our video, which should be somewhere here, which is the Wordle Chooses Our Day challenge, which was kind of a sporadic one that I came up with, but I hope you really enjoy it. Do check it out.
And follow us for all the updates and new stuff we are posting. So subscribe, leave a like if you did enjoy this, and comment down below what else you want to see.
Yeah, and just as a little sneak peek, or not sneak peek, a little reveal, our next trip isn't confirmed. However, someone's just booked where?
I don't even know how to pronounce it, so I will probably butcher this. I am going to Osijek in Croatia.
Yes.
Which I'm leaving in 4 or 5 days, which was booked last night. Queen of last minute trips.
So Amy's going away with a friend or a family friend of ours, and I'm not going. I'm going to hold the fort back home. I'm going to do all our work and try and crack on with life. But she will get a lot of content. She will smash it. I'm sure she will. She will love it. I'm getting she's going Croatia without me, because that's one of the places I want to go. But there's so many places that we're going to visit.
We're going every country in the world, as Jack keeps telling me. So, yeah, expect a vlog from Croatia, and stay tuned for the next one.
Yeah, so we shall see you soon. Bye. Lewandowski. Oh, yes. So cold. Is it recording?
Yes, baby.
You sure? Okay. Press it again.
It is recording.
How do you know?
It's got recording and the time.
That's the time?
I can see it, baby.
Oh, I see it. Wow, that's the intro. It's these.